Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. I am your host, David, and today joining me from the internets and Instagram in particular is Mallory. You might know her on Instagram as a.mal.gam, and I am so excited to have her with us today. How are you doing today, Mallory?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. We are recording at the tail end of January here. Your episode will be coming out in March, which is super exciting to just get ahead of things, which is always good for me. And it makes, I get to talk with you today.
Yeah, of course. Comes out in my birth month.
Yay! When's your
Yeah.
birthday?
The 25th of March.
Okay, I will have to make sure that I remember that. Note to self while editing. Now, Mallory, you and I have actually been following each other for quite a while on Instagram, and
Yeah.
I was like, why have I not sent her a message about this? I don't know.
I know that you reached out to SGO a while ago, but it's been a crazy couple of years. So like I don't live in Florida anymore. I moved back up north to the, past the wall, to the land of ice and snow. So and then, of course 2020 happened. So but yeah, I'm glad that we're finally getting together and having a chat.
Yeah, it is definitely something. I remember like stumbling across, and I have no clue how I stumbled across like Sailor Guardians Orlando. I was like, okay. And now I find out that you're not even in Florida.
I
What?
know. Yeah, it was a short-lived stint in Florida, but it was a cram-packed 2 years. So I got plenty to share.
Awesome. And I know that we are going to be talking about a lot of different fandoms today. And as
Mhm.
alluded to just moments ago about Sailor Guardians, one of the fandoms that you are into, and really a long-running fandom out of Japan, and
Mhm.
talked frequently on this podcast by many a people, is Sailor Moon.
Yes. Yeah, the infamous guardian of peace and love.
Now,
And
how
donuts.
how did you first get into Sailor Moon?
Oh, back when Toonami was on the air, when I was a wee one, I watched Sailor Moon for the first time. I think I had like some of the VHSs too, and when they had like dolls and stuff that were starting to release in the US, I was like, Mom, I want a Sailor Moon doll. So it started pretty early. I don't even remember when they started initially airing Sailor Moon on TV, but when it started airing, I was watching it. So it's been a while.
I know when it started. It started in 1993.
Hey, well, I was about a year old, so I probably watched it a little bit later than that. But when it was on Toonami, when I first got exposed to Toonami, that's when it showed up in my life, and it has not left since.
I only remember because I was a freshman in high school. I made friends with people that were into Sailor Moon. Wait,
Oh yeah.
what was it? It must maybe 93? No, I bet it was later than 93 because I made friends with them later on. So maybe I was
Yeah.
a
It was
junior
sometime in the
in the
90s.
90s,
Toonami
vague.
was a thing, and I would watch it like coming home from like elementary school. I'd watch all the classic like 90s anime
Hmm.
on Toonami, like DBZ, Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho. There was also a really obscure one that I remember every once in a while called Blue Submarine #6.
Yes.
And they aired it on Toonami, and I was way too young to watch that, but I watched it anyways because my parents were like, it's on TV, it's on Cartoon Network, why would it be bad? And well, that was a pretty mature a pretty mature anime to be watching for a young one like myself at the time.
Little did they know.
Yeah, little did they know. I went back and watched it like a couple of years ago too, and I was like, how did I get away with watching this when I was like 10?
Yeah, I don't think I watched Blue Submarine #6 until I was in college at some point, and I
Yeah,
was like,
it's a good series.
yeah, it's something I watched only a few episodes of. I don't know why I didn't watch more, but it was definitely there was definitely a lot on Cartoon Network that sometimes it got questionable.
Yeah, I mean, like even Dragon Ball Z got a little bit questionable and a lot violent in between all of their yelling. And next time on,
Next time on 500 episodes of a fight.
Yes, which was supposed to be 8 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what was it about Sailor Moon that initially attracted you, and why are you still into it to this day?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I really have to blame Sailor Jupiter for everything. Um, because she is my favorite. I cosplay her. She was really one of my first forays into making one of my first costumes, but I saw a lot of her in myself because like I was the tall girl in school, which unless you're a tall person compared to the rest of your class, it's not really like they're like, "Oh, they're so tall." And I'm like, I feel like a weirdo. And she gets treated differently because she's tall and looks intimidating, and I'm kind of the same way. So, but like I'm really just like I like my friends and I like to bake and I like to do, fun girly stuff and like I was a little boy crazy when I was that age too. So she just kind of like clicked for me as a character and I was like, man, that's me on the screen. And then it's just kind of devolved into me just being obsessed with Sailor Jupiter ever since.
Okay.
So she's really the anchor that has kept me in it. And I think also the fandom itself and all of the people that I've met through cosplaying Sailor Moon and talking about it with people, they're the reason why I'm still into it too. Because honestly, I haven't really watched much of the show since it was airing and since I was younger. And I didn't really keep up with a lot of the manga. I wasn't really much of a manga person anyways. So I know that there's way more that I haven't indulged in. But the fandom is always so welcoming and it's so girl power and it's so empowering that it's hard to stay away in a sense.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I know, and I probably mentioned this on another person's podcast episode, is that whenever you go to a convention of any sort, comic, sci-fi, fantasy, whatever it is, there's inevitably going to be a minimum of one Sailor Scout, if
Yeah.
not more so. Like, and I think that is one of like the entry points into like that kind of like anime or
Yeah.
manga. And you've had Sailor Moon since the 90s, like on videotape and DVD, and now there's Sailor Moon Crystal out, and it,
Yeah.
it's just ever present.
Yeah, she's really a staple and she's like a staying force. Like she's one of the OG say like OG magical girls, which has like inspired other series. Like I've watched a ton of magical girl stuff. Like Madoka was really big. I like it's endless, but she's like the one that everybody comes back to. She's the entry point, like you said. So yeah, it's got a lot of staying power and it's got a lot of it's kind of timeless in a way because it's not, you know, you could drop Sailor Moon and her story in any timeline or any like time period and it's still a very powerful and compelling story. So, yeah, it's hard to get away from her cuz she's ever present.
I think it's also helps that like you gravitated towards Sailor Jupiter
Mhm.
while other people would gravitate towards the any number of Sailor Scouts that they have. And I
Yes.
think it just resonates. Like you find that character where you're like, I really feel like I am Sailor. Like for me, it was Mercury. I was like,
Yeah.
I resonate to Mercury. Like she's a big giant nerd. I'm a nerd. I like computer stuff.
Yeah.
And and she's got like cool moves and she's a loyal person. And I
Yeah.
think that that's one of the things that with, and I'm almost going to compare it to like boy bands. Is every boy band there's like the five different people. It's like, oh yeah, this one's for the sporty people and this one's for this
Yeah.
person. And it's the same thing with Sailor Moon. You find that character that you love and you're like, I love them.
Yeah, yeah, it's like they're like the Spice Girls. Yeah, but like everybody's got a different like her whole friend group and the Sailor Scouts in general, they're all their own unique, distinct person, and everybody can kind of see themselves in a way in at least one of them. because they're the whole gambit of personalities and people. But yeah, because like I have friends who are like, oh, I am a Mars person all the way. I love her so much. And like me, I'm like, I am Sailor Jupiter. I am Makoto in the flesh. So you're welcome. But, but like, it's hard not to find yourself in one of the characters because the cast is so broad and they're all so grounded in a way as characters. And they all have their one common thing, which is friendship and love and fighting crime.
I almost busted out Friendship is Magic, which is totally a different fandom that we're not
That's
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. I could talk about it, but we don't have to because I know that's a deep dive.
I go where the guest wants to, but it's honestly because we've been watching a lot of oh gosh, whatever channel it used to come on or still comes on, and it's like Friendship is Magic. Here's the
Oof.
reason why you need to be watching the main six, and I'm like, every like hour that commercial comes on.
Oh my god. Yeah, I could like do a deep dive about My Little Pony. um, but I mean, it's very similar to Sailor Moon. They all have their own distinct personality type. Everybody resonates with one person or pony or another in some way. So yeah,
See, an influence possibly from Sailor Moon.
yeah.
Now, do you have like did for Sailor Moon? I know you
Mhm.
talked about you hadn't watched like some of the newer stuff. Probably, I assume like
Mhm.
Sailor Moon Crystal is not
It's
on your.
on it's on my list of things to watch, but the list of things to watch is getting a little bit long. And despite having quarantine be a thing, I have still been working through quarantine from home, so I still work 40 hours a week. So it's still I'm still chugging through the list, but I have heard the similarities to the original series, but um it's more true to what the manga was at the time. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like a combination of both. So I haven't watched it yet, but it is on my radar to watch.
Now, did you watch like all of the original stuff that came out? Have you like immersed yourself in the original?
I would say that I was pretty well versed in everything before the Outer Scouts got there, and then I think I got to a point where I was too busy with school and stuff to really like buckle down on it. So I haven't really gone much further than or remember much other than all the Jupiter stuff.
Hmm.
As sad as that is to say, but like I'm well versed in Jupiter.
I totally understand. I've talked with a number of people who like have watched everything, and back when I was watching, it was just the obviously whatever was on Toonami,
Hmm.
and then I'd catch like some of the movies on videotape,
Yeah,
and I knew of like the Outer Scouts, and I knew of Chibiusa, and like my favorite Outer is Sailor Pluto, so she'd show up like
yeah.
randomly and be like, "Oh, hey, I know that one," but I'm the same way. Like I haven't seen the stuff straight through, and then the
Yeah.
Sailor Starfighter and Healer. I don't know any of that stuff.
I didn't get to that part. I know that they're out there, and uh, that's about it.
They're out there and they're watching.
They're watching us. Yes.
Do,
Yeah.
one of the questions I have, because obviously Sailor Moon has been around since like the mid '90s for us in America,
Mhm.
and we're in 2020 now, so we're going on like what 30 years, give or take. Maybe
2021. It's not 2020 anymore.
that's right. Oh gosh, did I say
Yeah.
2020? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
It's okay. It's been a long year.
Yes, it's the 13th month of the year right now as we're
Yeah.
recording of 2020.
It's the 13th month of 2020 and going forward.
Exactly.
Oh boy.
But one of the questions I have, especially with fandoms such as this, where they've been around for a while, especially in like my mainstream fandom, like stuff that I think about, is do you see Sailor Moon lasting 20 more years, 40 more years? Is Sailor Moon going to be one of those fandoms that exist like as a timeless thing that people will always be into?
Ooh, I think it could be. Because, I mean, like, I haven't really sat down to watch a lot of it since the late 90s, early 2000s, but I'm still very much invested in the characters and, and like content itself. There's people who like discover it every day, I feel, because it's such a broad like expanse of content that they've created for Sailor Moon too. So it's it's really easy to get introduced to it in a certain way. And so like if you were to be suggested like Sailor Moon Crystal as like oh, you should watch this, this is really good, it's a classic, you can go back to the 90s and be like, once you've watched Sailor Moon Crystal and just go through and be like, yeah, there's way more to it than just what they've done for that one reboot. Like, I mean, it's essentially a reboot, but the original series that came out in the 90s is still there too, and all the movies and the musicals, which I haven't watched any of them, but I've seen clips and I'm like, oh man, what I wouldn't give to work on one of those. But like they keep making musicals for her and I'm like, it's been a while, guys. You still got some chops for a sixth musical? That's awesome. So it's definitely got longevity. It's definitely got staying power. And I'm fairly certain that even in like 20 more years, when I'm, walking around all the conventions, uh, feeling very old, watching all the young kids just running around whippersnappers, I will probably still see Sailor Scouts running around. I'll probably still be in Sailor Scout outfit at that point, if my track record is anything to prove by that.
Yeah, I definitely I think out of a lot of the stuff that's come out, I think Sailor Moon is one of those ones where like
Hmm.
you said, they've got the reboot, which is bringing, or Crystal, which is bringing in new people. You've got the original, which is still on Hulu. I mean, Hulu has Crystal and the original both on the
Yeah.
on there, and it's like, oh, hey, I can watch that.
Yeah. I mean, like they still make products with Sailor Moon on it. They still have merch that comes out like every year, whether it's for Crystal or for the original. Like she's got a lot of chutzpah. she's she's got a lot of staying power. Like I said before, like it's hard not to run into Sailor Moon at any given anime convention. So I don't see her going anywhere for a long time. Funny enough, I'm actually wearing a Sailor Moon like lounge around shirt that I have. And we're talking about it. I just looked down and I was like, oh, there she is
There she
on my
is.
body.
Surprise.
Ta-da.
Awesome. Well, I know that I hope Sailor Moon sticks around because it's got a lot
Yeah,
of good stuff in it for the young ones I know.
absolutely.
Now, going from Sailor Moon, we're going to go like in a completely different direction. So
Yep.
hold on to your hats. We're going to talk about a video game that came out a couple of years ago at this point now. And I've watched people play it and I've enjoyed watching it. So it's called Detroit Become Human, and
Mhm.
it's beautifully done. It's got a wonderful branching storyline, and you're going to tell me all about it.
Yeah. So I was introduced to that game by a little playthrough by Jacksepticeye. That was the first time that I actually like, because I end up consuming a lot of video game stuff by watching Let's Plays. I specifically watch like Game Grumps and Jacksepticeye most, but I'll like dabble in other people too. But Jacksepticeye put out a playthrough of it when it initially came out, and I was so interested and invested in it that I was like, I'm gonna go buy this and like play it myself, which is something that I rarely ever do unless I've got like stakes in the like a video game franchise beforehand. I don't usually go out and consume like some of the random stuff that's coming out.
Hmm.
So that was a first for me, but I played it through, and me being an anxious gamer, like my big game that has stayed the test of time is Animal Crossing. So like that's my baseline for video game playing is like life sims. So Detroit was definitely way outside of my wheelhouse, so to speak, because it's like a quick time reaction kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it wasn't a horror, so jump scares didn't make me have a panic attack, and I was like, okay, great, cool. And the storyline was just really interesting to begin with, like the concept of androids like having their own like sentience, their own personalities outside of being programmed to do what they're supposed to do.
Hmm.
Um, so that really caught me. And then after I had played through it, I discovered a little like part of Twitter that was really into the game. And they've kind of established themselves as like Twitter Jericho, which is like the haven for the androids in the game. They like find this ship called Jericho and they're like hiding out in it so that they're not getting like deactivated because they deviated, so to speak.
Hmm.
Or they broke through their like initial programming so that they have free will over themselves. Um, so Twitter Jericho sailed into my life, and I don't think I've hopped off of Twitter Jericho since. Um, which is really funny because like I actually met somebody. I've actually met a couple of people from Twitter Jericho in real life, but most of us are just internet friends. But a lot of people have kind of moved on to other fandoms or um, like come back to Detroit and things like that and like circle back and then gone off and found another thing and then circled back and then we all just like still keep in touch with each other. Like I was checking in with people today. So it's really cool like how it's my first experience with a fandom for a game that like it's a great game. Like don't get me wrong, it is a great game. The way that they made the branching arcs and how it all interconnects, that's really cool. I've never played a game like that before really. But I feel like the fandom made it even more entertaining to consume the content from this game because it's obviously there is, well, I don't know if it's obvious for some people, but there are some parts of the game where like what were you thinking when they were writing it, and like some of it is sometimes problematic, coming from a place of like comparing the androids to like the civil rights movement and things
Hmm.
like that, which I'm a white person, so I can't really speak too much to it, but there's some people who have been like, hey, this is maybe not a great like vehicle to use this for, but despite any of the shortcomings that we found as a fandom through the game, there's been a lot of really great camaraderie that I've found in that kind of fandom. And it's the first time in a very, very long time that I've ever had that before on like an adult level. Because the last time I was ever in a fandom like that was really in my Tumblr days when I was like a teenager. And like I was into Doctor Who and Homestuck, which was a journey in and of itself, but like I was never really in the fandom, like in it. And this fandom is really just full of lovely, wonderful, wonderful, weird and wonderful people. And I love them all. But it's actually led to a lot of really cool content that kind of expands on the universe because there's only so far that you get in the game. um like have you played it before? Do you know what goes on in the game? Or
Well, like you, I watch a lot of my video games, not through YouTube, like YouTubers, but I watch a lot of Twitch streamers do it.
yes.
So I have seen people play through Detroit Become Human, not full playthroughs, but enough to where
Mm,
I get what's going on. And I
mm.
really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, that would be great if I could play it at my house. And I
Yeah.
mean, it became one of those free PlayStation Plus games. but
Oh yeah.
I can't play it when the kids are around. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, the kids are around all the time now, so that's not going to happen for a
Oh
while.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So if I talk about like
Yeah, you are good to go.
stuff, it's not spoilers.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah. So like, there's only so far that you get with everyone, especially with all of the like. So there's the three android characters, Kara, Marcus, and Connor. And they all have like their intersecting storylines. But then once you get to the end, whether the outcome is good or bad, depending on how you played the game, they all have a very distinct stopping point. And it's like, but what happens after that? What happens beyond that? And like the fandom took that and just booked it. They are way past the goalposts. They're off in a different field. They're doing their thing. And they took the storyline and they've just gone. And I've never seen that happen before. And I'm like, this is so cool. But like there was a one-off character that RK900, which is the upgrade to Connor's RK800 model, affectionately known by a lot of the fandom as Nines. Um, and it got to a point where there's a content creator, it's Octopunk Media. They made a fan film. They made two fan films. Like one of them is a feature-length film, and I actually was part of the Patreon to back it. So I helped produce that movie in a sense of like, donating through their Patreon so that they could make it. And they hired actors, they wrote scripts, they got sets. And these are both films that you can see for free on YouTube. And it's expanding on like what if RK900 was introduced to it and he gets introduced to another character in the DPD, and it actually turns into like a romance, based off one of the ships from the fandom.
Mhm.
And it's beautifully written. It is beautifully acted. It's like it made me cry several times. It's like a 90-minute, and I knew what was going to happen. Like it's based off of like a lot of the common things that happen between these two characters in the fandom and like all of the content that was created around them. But it's it was just so beautifully done, and I've never seen that happen in a fandom before. Like I've never had a fandom that had like a fan created feature film, but boy, they did that, and it's amazing. And I felt very proud to be part of that and like help them get that to be made. And I'm just sitting back here like consuming the content later on, and the fruits of my labor were like my donations, but they did all the hard work, and now we get to see this. But like it's a whole community, and it's just so sometimes I'm just like speechless about the Detroit fandom, because they've really just made a meal of this whole game, and it's all delicious and I love it. But they're all just really wholesome and wonderful people, and they're all very supportive of everybody else. And like we're all part, like I sent Christmas cards. Me and my fiance sent Christmas cards to some of the people that we know online, and I've like never met these people in person ever. But like we sent Christmas cards along to Christmas cards with like our families. They got Christmas cards along with my like mom and my aunt and his grandma. So like they're kind of part of the family now. They know all of our business. We know most of theirs, whatever they're sharing. So it's really cool to see that this like one game that was like really big for a little bit of time just completely shaped a whole like fandom in this vacuum of Twitter. And it was awesome, and I feel very happy and proud to be part of it.
That is really awesome. It's really
Yeah.
incredible to watch and see like the growth of that kind of fandom just emerge and evolve and become, what it is. And, for the way it sounds like a super supportive fandom and community that is out there. And that's really just wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, like, there, of course, there's going to be a little bit of like Twitter drama, because there's always Twitter drama, but honestly, I've never seen a fandom keep it to a minimum. Because, like, a lot of the people who are in this fandom, like, of course there's going to be, like, younger people in every fandom, but for the most part, all of the people in the Detroit fandom that I know are, like, at least in their, like, early to mid-20s as, like, the youngest people. And then there's people who are, like, in their 30s and 40s and, like, have families and kids, and we're all, like, talking about this, ragtag group of robots just sticking it to the man. So so it's just really interesting to see, like, even when there is drama or anything, it gets shut down really quickly because, like I said, I was part of the Homestuck fandom at one point, and I've seen it go really, really far, and it was exhausting. So it's really refreshing to have, like, a mature set of people who can settle their differences on the internet, which is just kind of like a rarity in and of itself. But I found one fandom and I'm going to stick with it. Even if they don't
Exactly.
make that kind of game ever again, I'm going to be like, I'm going to hang out with these guys in the corner because I know they're chill and y'all just have fun.
I totally understand that. There are
Yeah.
definitely fandoms nowadays where I'm like, oh gosh, like I'll talk about the fandom with people, but I'm not going to get involved in the Twitter discussions. Like
Oof.
there are
Yeah.
some where it's like, no, just you
Yeah.
go over there and I'm over here,
Yep.
and we'll talk about it, at some future point.
Yeah, like I don't even like recall the last time there was any Twitter drama with like Twitter Jericho for instance, but like, man, Twitter is something. And I'm glad that I found like a corner of it that I don't have to worry about it for the most part because everybody's keeping their cool about it. But yeah, I have seen the blow ups in other fandoms and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not in that one.
Exactly.
Whew.
Exactly. Now, for people, we talked about the fandom of Detroit Become Human. I know people can watch the playthroughs out there. For you playing it,
Mhm.
what did you love about the game? Who did you love about the game? Like, what was the things that just
Ugh.
got you?
Um, I think I think what I really liked about it is the autonomy that I had in making choices. Um, because like I said, I'd never really played a game like that before. And then realizing later on in the game when I had made a choice like a couple of chapters before with the certain character, it led to me being able to do something more,
Hmm.
or it led to me having an impact that I didn't see coming. So it was a very lifelike experience of like hindsight is 2020 of, oh, I should have done this because I would have had an easier time, but now I have to deal with the situation as it is now.
Right.
So I really liked that. And my favorite character, which of course is he's the golden boy. It's Connor, the android from Cyberlife. And I love him. He's a beautiful boy. But I really liked his arc because his outward struggle between whether he wanted to deviate or not was so nuanced. Like with Kara's arc and with Marcus's arc, they deviate in like one of the first two chapters that they have during the game, so they deviate early on. But with Connor, he doesn't get the choice or even get the impulse to deviate until like almost the end of the game. So you get to see the whole thought process behind going against the programming that he's going through, or if you make the choice to just be like do like the quote unquote machine run and be just an android the whole way, then you get to see how that plays out too. I've never done that one, but I have watched some of the playthroughs for that, and it's a very different ending. Like that one is like, oh, you could kill a man and have no remorse, and it's the person that you were with the entire time, and it was your, work partner, or you could hug it out with him. depending on the choices that you make. But like it's really interesting to see like this character who, honestly, for all intents and purposes, from my perspective, he could have been a deviant the whole time because he's given such autonomy over making his choices, but he's technically still just doing what his program is telling him to do. So it's really nuanced in terms of whether or not the deviancy is the conscious choice or whether it's just something that they realize that they are being autonomous and they're making their own choices, and then it just kind of clicks for them, like an aha moment. Because it's in the game, it's very apparent when that starts happening. Like they run into this big red wall in their programming and they break through it.
Mm-hmm.
But with Connor, you can make the choice to do things that have no bearing on any of your missions and like your goals that you're supposed to hit, just because you can. And it doesn't have any effect. Well, it does have an effect in some instances, but sometimes it doesn't really have very much of an effect. Like in the first introduction to Connor, when you first meet him, it's actually a big thing in the fandom. You are given the choice to save the fish or not. And there's no bearing on that to his mission, but if you pick it up and you put it back in the thing, he gets like a little software instability like notification, and then that's it. You can still continue and you can succeed on your mission, but you also save this little fish, and it's like he's supposed to be a machine in that instance,
Mm-hmm.
and like for like the whole game, but he did something that comes from compassion and from empathy and from, like rescuing this little fish that's flopping around on the floor. He's like, oh, I'm not going to let it die. And now I'm going to go do my job. Like it takes 5 seconds out of your day to do something nice for somebody. And it's kind of a reflection on your character, but he's supposed to be an android. He's not supposed to have feelings. He's not supposed to have empathy, but he's trying to be as lifelike as he can. So he's given a lot of license to do whatever he wants, really. And CyberLife doesn't really question him on it until it starts becoming apparent that he's noticing that that's what he can do. And he's like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to finish my mission. I don't know if I want to be under your thumb. And they're like, oh, well, we hecked up. So I really liked Kara, and I really liked Marcus as well, but I think a lot of people found Connor's story really compelling because of the way that it was told. And yeah, and that's my spiel about Connor, the android sent by CyberLife.
I like what you said about, because it resonates like for everybody. It takes 5 seconds out of your day to do something nice, like even if it's just a little thing. Like
Yeah.
that is one thing right there. I'm like, dang, that's just a great thing just to think about every day.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, from that perspective, was he ever really a machine? Or was he human? Or was the Detroit the human we found along the way? Yeah, but like, taking 5 seconds out of your day to do something nice is, a really grounding human thing to do. So in this game, the way that it's presented, in the first like 30 seconds of playing the game, you're given this choice that, oh yeah, the person behind the controller is like a human. So they're like, yeah, I'm going to save that fish. I don't want it to die. But the character that you're driving is not supposed to be thinking like you, but you make the conscious choice anyways. So really it's, and of course it's always nice to do nice things for people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
I know Detroit Become Human was really popular.
Yes.
Is there any talk of a sequel or a spin-off or of anything, or are they just going to move in the production company they're just going to move into different like story or game?
I haven't been hearing anything. I know there was a lot of talk initially when it came out and it was still really popular of like, when are we going to get a sequel? What happens with all these characters afterwards? Um, but we haven't really gotten any kind of news like that. So I doubt that we're going to get a sequel. Because I don't know really where they'd go, especially considering that the fandom has really filled in a lot of the holes so beautifully. That I feel like we might be dissatisfied with whatever they come up with. Or at least from my perspective, I'd be like, I read a fan fiction that was nicer than that.
Yeah, that happened with me with Harry Potter back in between
Yeah.
like books 4 and 5, and I was like, oh, this like 60 chapter fan fiction was so much better than what I read in certain
Yep.
parts. Like, what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, it's really funny how much like fandom content has come out that like I don't think we'd want a sequel now because we're happy in our little corner in our little fantasy world. Thank you very much.
Don't taint it.
Yeah. If they did come out with a sequel, I'd be interested to see what they decide to do with these characters, or if they like do a whole new cast of characters and have like cameos from the old ones, which would be really interesting considering where technology has brought us since between when it was released and now. So I can see them potentially doing a sequel, but I don't know if that's like top of their list. So I'd be very shocked if they decided to be like, haha, Detroit 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh,
If they called it that, I'd be more inclined to buy it. So
that you'd be the first in line, be like, yes,
I
I'm
would
here to
do it just
boogaloo.
purely for the meme alone. I'd be like, yeah, Electric Boogaloo, let's do it.
That's right. Now, we're gonna leave Detroit, and we're gonna go to the quote unquote, because I live in Central Florida, the happiest place on earth.
Mm.
And one of the things that you had mentioned before we got started recording is that you're into Disney. Disney's like something that you're into, but
Oh yeah,
you actually worked at the parks.
I did. Yes.
What kind of work did you do? Did you do like attractions work or cooking work or like cashiering work? Like what work did you do, Mallory?
So I worked in Magic Kingdom's character costuming. So my role, and this was through the Disney College program. I did 2 sessions with them, so I was there for about like 9 months-ish.
Okay.
And what I did, this was right after I graduated college too, with my theater degree in costuming. So I was brought on. Essentially, what we did, we made sure that costumes for face and fur characters were in tip-top condition for performers to use when they went to their shifts. So a lot of it was laundry. So I did a lot of Mickey Mouse's gloves because kids would get Sharpie all over them.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I know how to get Sharpie out of white gloves, and it's incredible what stains I've learned to get out of things since working there. But yeah, I did that. So I was initially trained in just basically the character room, so their costuming part where they, the performers go to pick up any of their clothes
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. But I also got trained to help Tinkerbell at her meet and greet, get ready and make sure that all of her pixie dust was intact and help her get dressed if she needed it. And I also helped out with Mickey at his meet and greet. They were both in Town Square Theater in Magic Kingdom, so the first building on the right once you enter. And I helped Mickey get dressed and talk to his guests every day. And that was the coolest thing I've ever done.
What specifically? Because I'm always curious about like costuming, especially whenever I have cosplayers on. It's one of the things that we talk about is cosplay and costuming. But at Disney, like that's kind of like the standard that cosplayers go off of, generally speaking.
Mhm.
What was it like just being there with like these iconic
Ugh.
character outfits, essentially?
Oh my God. Um it was a dream, honestly. Like I used to just walk through the rows and just touch things, and I was allowed to do it. And I could like I was washing things. Like I was washing outfits, so I got to like inspect inside a bodice and see how they constructed it or which snaps and hooks were put where. So it taught me a lot of, even though I wasn't making costumes, like I wasn't sewing anything unless a button popped on Mickey's lapel on his shirt and I had to like sew it on real quick before he went out.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't sew anything. I didn't stitch anything. I was just maintaining the costumes and cleaning them and making sure that they were show ready. So I just got to touch things. And from my perspective, as someone who was trained in costume construction and design, that's really telling. Like I can tell like what techniques some of the techniques that were used on constructing these costumes, whether it was a skirt for Belle or um, like Pooh Bear's shirt. Like it was really without trying to break. I'm trying not to ruin the magic for folks who
Yes.
don't want to know, but the way that everything is pieced together is really interesting from my standpoint because I gotta say, like, character integrity, I'm all about it because I wouldn't want to ruin the magic for kids because they see Mickey Mouse and that's Mickey Mouse right there in the flesh. From my perspective, I'm like, okay, what makes you tick? Because I'm an adult and I know, it's a fur character. But I getting to work with these costumes just makes it even more magical in my eyes because like there's a lot of effort that goes into making sure that Mickey looks good. Like that these costumes look like they hopped off of the screen. So it's really hmm, how do I how do I say this without without ruining the magic? It's so hard. It's a balancing act. If I didn't know that this was going out into the world, then I would just tell you everything.
No, don't tell me everything. We'll keep it on the down low. Like you don't
Yeah,
have to
keep it
say
on
it.
the
You
down
don't
low.
you don't have to say it. Um,
Yeah, but like especially the venues that I worked at had a lot of technological pieces. Um, which I learned, like I spent most of my time with Disney in the mouse hole with Mickey, and I really got to know how he thinks, how he functions, how he does things, and it's a lot to say the least.
mhm.
But when I got to see, like when I got to go visit him at work as like a guest instead of being, at work as a cast member, um, it was still just as magical for me, even though I knew exactly how it worked.
Right.
Like I knew exactly how he ticked, but that's Mickey Mouse, and he's doing a magic trick for me. And like the moment that I got to bring my parents to meet him. I was I was part of the closing cast and crew for Backstage Magic with Mickey. For his stint while he was speaking to guests still.
Okay.
Um, so like you would go in and you would, be greeted by Mickey. He would talk to you and you'd have like a little interaction and sometimes he'd show you a magic trick or, ask you how your day was, what you did, what you rode, did you eat any good food? So he'd like have a conversation with guests, which was really awesome and involved, and I've heard so many stories about how everybody thinks it works, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could tell you what it actually is, but I'm not going to because I'm going to let them keep believing what they want to believe. But like I told my parents about my days at work, so they knew too, but my mom was like, oh my God, that's Mickey Mouse. And I'm like, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like even my parents were like, whoa. And my dad's not even like my dad is the kind of person who will be like, good job. And I'm like the lead of a play, like a big musical number. And he's like, you did good, honey. And I'm like, thanks. I worked very hard. But like, he was even like, wow, that's impressive. And I'm like, if I can impress Jim, that's all I care about. So here's my boss. And he's going to show you a magic trick now. So, but like, I made a lot of really good friends at that venue. I'm still friends with a lot of people that I knew. I actually lived with one of the performers for a while, and it was a lot of fun. But like knowing, like getting to interact with everything and seeing all of the effort that's put in to make it magical for everybody, like it's insane some of the things that I've seen them do to make sure that everything looks perfect. So from a costuming standpoint, that was educational. I was learning something every day the entire time. When I came out of college being like, I know what I'm doing, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, so it was quite the experience. If anybody wants me to ruin the magic for them, I am more than happy to, but only if I know you. And if you know me, I probably already have anyways, so sorry.
Even I don't know. That's
Yeah.
okay, because magic is good.
Yeah.
Now, out of curiosity, because there's a lot of beautiful pieces that Disney has
Mm-hmm.
for its performers. Which one is your favorite, or the one where you're just blown away by it when you're like in its presence?
Ooh. Wow. Um, other than Mickey, who would talk to his guests, because that was crazy. That he cost more than my car. Um, and I'll just leave it at that. And it was well worth the money. But costume wise, like just garment wise,
Yeah.
I would have to say it's probably Merida's costume. Um, it's a beautiful velvet, and it's like a burnished velvet, so there's like texture to it, and the embroidery is amazing. And like it looks really simple, but if you really look at it up close, there's a lot of detail that goes into it to make it look so like dimensional when it's such a simple costume. Um, and I would also say Belle's um, yellow dress, because that thing is heavy. And she carries it so well. But it's a lot of like velvet, and it's just gorgeous material, gorgeous texture, and it's super intricate as well. And I would have to say also Tiana, because her like flower dress,
Hmm.
there's so much that goes into that, but it looks so perfect. So it's well worth all the effort that you put into it. Um, so there are a couple of like princess gowns. I would say those are my top three. Um, hmm. And then I would say for the fur characters, um, as much as he's kind of a pain, Buzz is really impressive. And I actually got to do like help do a fitting for Buzz, and it's a lot. just just getting just getting all of his pieces functioning is a lot in and of itself. So there's a lot of effort that goes into making him look as good as he does. Um, so yeah, for characters, I would say Mickey or any of the moving heads, and the technology that goes behind that,
Hmm.
and then Buzz, and then a couple of the princesses. Their gowns are just very pretty.
I will say I got caught off guard by Merida, because that's not one where you're thinking like, huh, you know,
Mhm.
to be like a top tier being called out like that, but it is something for the like you had mentioned, like the intricacies of
Mm,
the like the details that go into it.
yeah,
Like like that's not something that like I would see if I wasn't looking for it, but
yeah. I think my favorite thing that happened was when we got to the point where it was cold weather in Florida, which for me, just coming from New England, was kind of funny because I wore shorts. So I wore shorts the entire time, and somebody asked me if I was crazy, and I was like, I'm from New England, and they were like, oh. And then they never questioned me again because I was wearing shorts in January,
hmm.
and everybody else was like bundled up, and I was like, drinking an iced coffee from Dunk's in my shorts and like a light fleece jacket. And I was like, why are you guys cold? It's 60 degrees. But then after living there for a year and getting cold blooded, I was like, oh, I understand why 60 degrees is cold because I'm also putting on a sweater and long pants at this point. So I did a good 180 on that. But when the cold weather happens, they have like certain parts of costumes that they change out to keep performers warm.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite parts was coming in and seeing Merida's wool cloak. Oh, that thing! It's a cloak, so it's the simplest thing that you can make. But they picked an amazing fabric for that, and all of the tiny little details. Like there's a brooch that goes on it that's gorgeous, and like it goes all of the colors match perfectly and complement with her dress, and the embroidery is the same, and it's just so cohesive, and I'm like, it's such a simple costume, but the fabric choice really does make the difference between, you know, something that you find at Joann's and like Disney level quality of being able to source your material from wherever, which is the struggle that I go through as someone who worked in Disney in character costuming, being able to look at all these beautiful costumes, and I'm like, but I want to buy that fabric. But yeah, it's some of the warm weather stuff is really innovative too. But her cloak, when it came out, I was like, ooh, and I would just kind of like touch it, and I would just like hold it in my hand, and I'd be like, yes, it's winter.
Now, with just moving away from costuming, because you worked in the parks, what was your favorite ride? What was your favorite thing to eat? I just want to
Oh.
know, like, what's your favorite secret that, not as a secret, but hey, if you go to Disney, you should really do like this.
Ugh. Oh boy. Well, so I have favorites based on the park. Um, my favorite thing about working at Magic Kingdom was I was working the evening shift, so I actually got to see the fireworks show every night. Um, I still cry. It still gets me right in the feels every time, and now that I don't work there anymore, it gets me even more emotional. Um, but that's the way that they did the projections on that. I'm always like, you need to see it at least once because it's just really incredible how they synced everything up. And like one of the techs that I worked with was one of the people who prepped that show. So like they made sure everything aligned and everything. So he like he did something ruining the magic for me, and he went through and he found the like a YouTube video, and he pointed out all the misalignments to me, and I was like, yeah, but it still looks really good. And he's like, yeah, but like look at it. And I'm like, well, I see that now that you've brought my attention to it, but I still like it. So if you've not seen the fireworks show, or if you wanted to skip it, please don't. It's beautiful. It'll get you right in the feels. Um, my favorite ride, I think I have a top two, I guess, across all parks. First and foremost is the Haunted Mansion, and if I didn't say that first, then check my temperature because I might be sick. Um, I'm very much a Haunted Mansion fan. And then my second favorite is Dinosaur. And I've been obsessed with that ride since I went to Disney for the first time when I was like 10. So it's got a lot of fond memories for me before I even worked there. Like my brother and I rode it like 7 times in a row when we went to visit Disney when we were kids and made faces at the dinosaur that takes your picture every time. So I actually have a picture of me and some of my friends from the college program, and I've got like my sunglasses on, and I'm just kind of like giving it a scowl, and they're like reacting all like scared, and we're the only people in the car. So my friend bought a print of it, and I'm like, oh, so. And then Haunted Mansion, my best friend and I would like get on the ride because we're both Haunted Mansion fans, and we would have like deep discussions. And in the background, it's like, oh, the foreboding, and I'm like, well, I'm just really having a hard time. And the Grim Grinning Ghost is playing in the background. So like Haunted Mansion is my like therapy ride. It's very calming when they like tip you backwards and you're falling out into the graveyard, and you just kind of like let your body relax because it just tips you backwards to a point where it's like you're reclining, and I'm like,
Yes.
relaxing. And you just
Yes.
you take a load off.
One of the few places where you get to relax is that or the People Mover.
Yes. Oh my God. I heard that they had to shut it down and they're refurbishing it, and I'm like, oh, that's such a shame because it's such a relaxing ride.
Yes, just let me sit. I'm
Yeah.
old now. I need to rest my weary
Yeah.
bones.
Sometimes you just got to take a breather.
Oh my goodness. That is so cool. I love like getting to hear about people's stories like
Oh,
for things like that.
oh, I love the parks. I could talk about them all day. I practically lived at them for like 2 years. So if I wasn't in my house in Florida, and if I wasn't with SGO in Florida, I was probably at the parks, either
Hmm.
for work or for fun. So I could talk about them all day.
That's awesome. I might have to talk about more park stuff with you later
Yes.
on in the world, later on
Oh
in
my
the
God.
future.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, obviously, because we met on Instagram,
Hmm.
there's pictures involved, and way back when I started this podcast, I was like, how can I find people that want to talk about things that they like? And I was like, I bet cosplayers want to talk about things that they like
Oh my God.
because they blood, sweat, tears, and everything else that goes into costuming.
Hmm.
And that's how I came across you, is through Sailor Guardians Orlando and
Yeah.
through the work that you do. So how did you get into cosplay? Like what was the thing that got you into it?
Oh, my first, so I mean, I've always loved dressing up. Um, even since I was a little kid. I'm sure that you've heard a lot of this before from many other cosplayers because I feel like we all start in the same place somehow, where like our Halloween costumes were next tier. But my official first foray into cosplay was in high school. So most people, when they turn 16, they have like a sweet 16 party with their friends. I went to an anime convention for my sweet 16. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I really want to go. And they were like, okay. So they trudged themselves along with me and my brother and my friends from high school. And of course, because my friends from high school had gone before and they already had cosplayed, they were like, oh my gosh, we should plan a cosplay together. We should go in costume. And I was like, oh, you can do that? That's cool. So my first attending a con ever was Anime Boston in 2008, and I went dressed as Gaara from Naruto, and my mom made my costume, and it was a big undertaking for her because she's usually just a quilter. But I went in costume for the first time. I made a really good lifelong friend just based on some tomfoolery at the Naruto meetup. So um, I was dressed as Gaara, and then we were all kind of just standing around us, like me and a bunch of the other cosplayers, waiting for the meetup to begin. And then this Rock Lee hobbles up on a pair of crutches. So like legit, they actually had crutches because they had sprained their ankle right before they got to the convention, and they were like, "Well, this works." So they were just walking around on crutches. And then we're all standing in this circle, and I notice, and I'm like, oh crap. That's something that happens in the anime. And then one of the other people was like, Lee, what happened to you? And they took their opportunity and they just pointed at me. And I was like, hey man, I'm sorry. And we were inseparable for the whole rest of the weekend. It was awesome. And they are still my friend to this day, and they are wonderful, and I love them very much. But like that was my first like foray into costumes at conventions, and it was all uphill from there. But like that was a really crazy first experience.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's like kismet right there.
Yeah, it was so cool. And I was and like afterwards I was talking to them and I was like, I am so glad that that person made that comment because I don't think I ever would have talked to you otherwise because I was so nervous and I'm a small baby in a big world and I'd never cosplayed before. And they were like, oh, well, I'm so glad they did too because like you're such a good, it's been such an awesome weekend hanging out with you. And I'm like, ah! So like, I was like, I made a friend. My parents came in to check on us at one point and they were like, meet us at this time in this place. And they saw how much fun that I was having that my parents were like, okay, well, just check in with us, call us if you need anything. And then they went off somewhere else in Boston and they just like left the convention and they left they left me and my 15-year-old brother to our devices in an anime convention in the middle of downtown Boston. And they were just like, yeah, they're fine. They're having fun. So yeah, that was great.
Just go forth by yourself
Yeah,
alone.
yeah. Well, I mean, like I've learned a lot going to conventions about travel and organizing large groups to do things and how hotels work and booking a hotel room on my own and road trips. So it's taught me a lot of things and I started early. So it's a good life skill to know how to travel. And thank you, anime conventions, for teaching me how.
So you dove in head first, birthday, got into it.
Hmm.
What's been your favorite costume to have worked on, to have worn? Like what's your number one?
So, um, I was really proud of myself when I made my first version of Jupiter because the one that I wear, the one that I was wearing with SGO, was essentially like my third or fourth iteration. I've made a couple of Sailor Fukus in my life, um, but my first one, I made it all by myself. I had never made anything like that before. I'd really only done basic stitches, so like I just dove into the project head first. I'd get some help pinning things on myself from my mom, but otherwise it was all me and it was all basic research that I did from like tutorials that people had put up and then going, nah, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to try it this way and trial and error,
Hmm.
which in my experience with sewing has just turned out to be um fruitful of just, well, let's see how it goes. And I'm like, okay. But I think for whatever reason I was blessed with a skill of being able to make it work when it comes to sewing, because I know other people who would try to do the same thing and not get the same result. So I don't know. I think I just have like a an intuition about sewing that I didn't know about until I started doing it. And then it's just kind of grown into a pseudo career, so to speak. Because I did sew professionally for Universal as well. So I did actually make money off of being a seamstress at one point.
Nice.
Um, but my first iteration of Jupiter actually won me a craftsmanship award for the first and only time I've ever competed in cosplay, at another anime convention in New Hampshire. And I was so proud of myself. And my mom still has the trophy up on like the mantle.
That's
um,
awesome.
but like I made it all from scratch. I like cobbled my own pair of boots Like, I took these boots and I ripped them apart and I put them back together with hot glue, but they looked great. So I was like, cool. If it works and it doesn't fall apart, then I'm fine. So that Jupiter is definitely my pride and joy, not just because I am her, but like she was really my first foray into making things on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other one that I'm also very proud of, even though I'm very self-critical about my costumes, just because a lot of them end up being made in that dreaded con crunch,
Oh
and I
gosh.
end up foregoing a lot of the details that I really wanted to put into them. Um, but my most detailed that I was really, really proud of was Elsa. I made her dress from the first Frozen movie, and I made it head to toe from just kind of throwing different pattern pieces together and making it work. But the detail that I put into it and all of the work that I put into it, it was like months of work. And I was working on this tiny little like writing desk as my sewing table in a tiny bedroom in an apartment that was way too small for 3 people to be living in. But I I poured a lot of my time and effort into her, and even though I don't even really have any pictures to speak of, I felt so good walking around as a Disney princess that I was like, man, I got to make these more often. But then I look back on it and I was like, wow. But like I look back on it now and I'm like, man, I can do this so much better. But I also had to come to the I've had a lot of introspection happen in 2020 about my costumes and cosplay, wherein I'm doing it for fun. I'm not a professional when I'm doing my costumes, and I have to kind of like separate my professional life as a costumer and my hobby life as a costumer
Mm-hmm.
from each other, because I can order whatever I want if I'm working for a big corporation and the sky's the limit. But I'm also working off of my own budget when it comes to cosplay, so I can't buy the really fancy fabrics and like go all out because I have to pay rent and feed myself. So,
Something that people forget sometimes.
yes, and for a while I did also forget that, and I poured a lot of time and effort into costumes and I spent a lot of money on them and I still wasn't happy because I ended up crunching on time. So like I've resolved at this point that I'm just going to make whatever I want at my own pace. I'm not even really going to tell people what I'm going to do because I used to put up like, oh, my work in progress and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm going to share it whenever I feel like it or if it looks like an actual garment. And that's it. Because I always put myself like on a really high standard that just kind of ended up biting me in the ass at
Mm-hmm.
one point and made me feel really bad about myself. Even though like looking back on what I was doing at the time, like Elsa's a really good build from that perspective. Like with my skill set and my budget as it was, I did a really good job with that. And I think only this year I've been able to say that about myself because I've been so hard on myself comparing it to the actual Elsa costume that I used to see at Disney every day. And I'm like, meh, well. So like I had to kind of take a step back and be like, I don't have the budget of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, so I can't source all of the Swarovski crystals that I want. And I'm just going to work off of the sequins I got on Amazon and just give myself a thumbs up and an A plus and a pat on the back because I worked really hard on that. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you can't compete with the House of Mouse when it comes to trying to
no,
like get stuff.
yeah, you really can't. And for a while, I was trying to put myself in a position to do that when I'm one person, and I've learned a lot of grace and patience with myself when it comes to sewing, because like it's it's a very time consuming hobby. It's a very detail oriented thing, and especially with someone with this, I have a particular set of skills. And I know how to do things that are on the level of the Disney stuff, but I just don't have the time or the resources to do it. So if I take my time, then I can probably get to that point. But at this point, I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I'm kind of getting back to the point where early on when I was cosplaying where I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to buy that because I don't want to make that. Even though it's very satisfying to make your own costume, especially from a creative standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
it's really expensive. And I got a day job, and I have a bunny who's very attention seeking, and I'm gonna be saving up for a wedding at some point soon. So I kind of have some budget constraints that might be a little bit more pressing than cosplaying. So if I can save the money and just buy it, then I might do that from now on because I've gotten to the point where I've come full circle and I'm like, I just want cosplay to be fun again. I don't want to put this extra stress on myself.
Right.
But I know that a lot of people get to that point, and I've been there too. So like, and there's this whole, I don't know why there is a whole thing with cosplayers being like, if you bought it, then it's not as good. And I'm like, no, some people don't want to make their costumes and some people don't want to compete with them. Some people want to just like be geeks in costumes for a weekend. Like, let us live.
Exactly. And I know that I've had a number of people that I've talked with before where it's definitely like some are like straight up. I do, they buy it off and they might make a little bit of alterations and then they're like, that's it. Like they want to dress up and have fun. They don't want to
Yeah.
stress over what they maybe can't do or
Yeah.
can't invest. Like it is cheaper at times to go buy something rather than
Yep.
invest the money in finding the material, making sure
Yeah.
you did it right. Oh no, I did it wrong. Now I need to go find more material.
Yeah. Oh my God. And like, I just got into crochet, and I just taught myself how to do it because I was bored and I'm and I'm at home and I got nothing else to do, even though I've got a bunch of cosplay projects that I could be working on right now. Like I've got the mock-up material and the patterns, and I'm like, I got all this ready to go. I just got to do it. I want to make a scarf. What if I taught myself how to crochet? Um, and in learning how to do that, I learned that when you make a mistake in crochet, you just pull the stitches until you get back to where you screwed up, and then you just do it again. And I'm sitting here and I turn to my fiance and I'm like, this would cost me $50 if I had to fix this if I was sewing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding me? I'm never sewing anything ever again. Which is a lie because I definitely picked up the sewing machine the next day. But I was like, man, this is so much easier and it's just relaxing and repetitive. But like, oh man. Yeah, sewing is a really big and time consuming and costly thing to do, and from someone who has a degree in it and has worked professionally in the sewing industry, it's a lot. And if you want to buy your costume, more power to you. I'm probably going to be buying it too. I just don't know where any of the good places are anymore because I've been making my costumes for so long that I'm like, I don't know which seller is a good one.
Exactly. Like that's the one thing is like I always see ads because of course being on the internet you get the cookies and then you're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
pro cosplay or easy cosplay. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't know
Yeah.
who you are.
If anybody has suggestions, I would love to take them because I'm in the market to not make my cosplays for a little bit. But like the last time I bought a cosplay that didn't get altered really, really heavily was when I cosplayed Black Butler. And I bought it from this site called Fan Plus Friend. And I don't know if they're in business anymore. But like that costume was actually something that I wore for a number of years, and I don't know why I forgot that it's just fun to dress up with people because like I wore it for like 5 years and I didn't make any of it. I might have made like a replacement vest for like a different iteration of Sebastian because I cosplayed Sebastian for a long time. And like I didn't make that 3-piece tail suit. That's a lot. Even for someone with my skill set, I don't want to make a tailored jacket. That sucks. It's a lot of effort and a lot of time. So like I bought it and I had so much fun like goofing around at conventions as Sebastian with my CLs and all my other like friends that like I want to go back to that. And I feel like cosplay is, I don't know where it went. I feel kind of like Cindy Lou Who, where I'm like, where are you Christmas? But it's like, where are you cosplay?
You got to put the play back into cosplay.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the play has kind of been lost for a lot of people. I don't know if this will resonate for anybody, but like I've been cosplaying since 2008, so I've been in the game for a while now, and I've done all of it. And I just kind of want to like hang out with my friends in costumes, and I don't want to stress about it anymore. So I've gotten to that point where I've just come full circle and I'm like, let's just hang out in a food court in our costumes like I used to do when I was young.
There you go. Now, final question before we wrap up is who's on your list? Because every cosplayer has a list of like who they'd love to do for a cosplay. Who do you have? Like, who's the one where you're like, if everything aligned and you could do it, which one, which character?
Oh, well, so I definitely would say Elsa from Frozen 2. The white dress, the white gown,
Mm-hmm.
or her like purple one from the beginning. Which I will probably end up doing at some point, either of those or both of them, just because I love Elsa. Anybody who knows me knows that I love Elsa. And like her transformation in Show Yourself was definitely really poignant for me. Just like Let It Go was. So that's why I made her blue dress to begin with, because I was like, this moment moved me. I was crying in the theater. And the same thing happened in Frozen 2 when she had her whole transformation. So I definitely want to do the white gown for her because it's very pretty, and also pants.
Pants, yes.
Pants.
And then you
put pockets in it.
Yes, I was just about to say with pockets.
Yes.
Everything
I
with
will
pockets.
I will never forego pockets in cosplay ever again, because I started adding pockets to everything and I was like, man, what did I do without these? But yeah, that's definitely on my list. I also have a project that I'm currently working on getting together. So, and it's kind of an original design. So I'm kind of doing a mashup between two aesthetics. One is Lady Amalthea from The Last Unicorn, her like human form, with like the purple motif and everything, but in the style of Danny Sexbang from Ninja Sex Party. So like sparkly jumpsuit, but also a unicorn princess. So I'm working on that. I have sketches for it that I don't think I've posted anywhere, because I'm like, I'm just going to keep this to myself until I actually make it.
Right.
So you heard it first. I'm making a Lady Amalthea Sexbang cosplay. So yeah, that's something that that has been an idea in my mind for like 3 or 4 years now, and I'm finally like getting the mock-up stuff to make it so that I can order enough spandex. But I'm very excited about that because I get to go like buck wild creatively and concept wise. So I am very excited to do that, because it's been a very, very long time since I did any sort of concept cosplay or Gajinka-ish cosplay, and the last time I got to do that was the My Little Pony days. So so yeah, so Elsa and my Lady Amalthea take are definitely the two that I'm like, the stars need to align for those, because I have to have those in my repertoire.
Awesome. Well, for people that want to follow you to see what you come up with next, or whatever whenever you decide to post, because
Yeah.
that's what you said, you post when you're ready to post.
Hmm.
But when you're ready to put it out there, what are the best places that people can go to follow you to check out what you're doing?
Definitely my Instagram, which is amalgam, spelled a.mal.gam. I'm sure the link will be wherever you're going to put it. And then I do have a Twitter for my cosplay, but I rarely ever use it, which is amalgam cos. I do have a Facebook page as well. It's Amalgam Cosplay on Facebook. I haven't been active on there just because I stepped away from social media for a good while.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I start working on anything, I might post there too. But the best place to reach me is Insta.
Awesome. Well, I will have the links to all three of those in the show notes and on the Facebook page and website. So if you have listened today to Mallory and you enjoyed it and want to check out what she has done or what she is doing in the future, you can take a look. And I just want to say, Mallory, thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk with me, because I definitely enjoyed it. And there's so many more questions I have. I'm just going to have to contain myself until next time.
Of course, and I would love to return to answer those. I've had a very fun time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.